Late last week, it was announced that Joel Greenberg, who has been described as Matt Gaetz' wingman, was going to court on Monday, today, to change his plea from not guilty to guilty. Now, there's really only one reason why you would change your plea, and it's because you've worked out some kind of plea deal with the prosecutors. And that is evidence from the fact that Greenberg was actually indicted on 33 charges, but he's only pleading guilty to 6 of them. One of them, yes, includes trafficking. One of them is wire fraud. Another one is identity theft, and then there's a couple others. But down from 33 charges to 6 if he changes his plea. I don't know about you, but that sounds like somebody's made a deal. And that's why I firmly believe that once Greenberg officially changes his plea in court today, that will be the moment that becomes the beginning of the end for Matt Gaetz. Here's why I believe this. Obviously, like I said, charged with 33 charges, pleading to 6. So prosecutors clearly went to him and said, okay, we can knock off X, Y, and Z over here. Basically, knock off 27 of the charges against you. We got to leave the big ones. Obviously, there's nothing we can do about that, but we'll see maybe about reduced sentencing if you start to roll. And as I explained on Ring of Fire last week, it could be because, again, one of the charges is trafficking that he's pleading guilty to. There could be a big old trafficking ring that he's going to roll on, and maybe that has nothing to do with Matt Gaetz. I don't believe that. I do believe that Matt Gaetz is the big fish that prosecutors are after. And the reason it's easy to believe that is because reports also from last week said that prosecutors and investigators were trying to get Matt Gaetz' ex-girlfriend to cooperate with them. You wouldn't reach out to some dude's ex-girlfriend if you were going after something completely different. It's not like Matt Gaetz just has the worst luck in the world and he's connected to all these people that were connected to a thing that he wasn't connected to. No, that's nearly impossible for that to be true. But here's the thing. Once Greenberg goes in there and he officially changes his plea and that registers with the court, he is at that point compelled to comply with every single thing that prosecutors ask him to do, because if he doesn't, the plea deal will be stripped away. He'll be hit with the full 33 charges and probably spend the rest of his life in prison. Another thing I mentioned over at Ring of Fire, in case you haven't seen that one, is the fact that if the sentencing for Greenberg happens before we get charges against other individuals, that's going to be a good indication as to how valuable the information that Greenberg was able to provide. If he gets, just a couple years based on the charges, that means he must have given up a lot of people and a lot of high-profile people. If he gets hit with a 100-year charge, probably didn't have anything of value to give. But one thing is for certain right now, Matt Gaetz should be scared. And I imagine Matt Gaetz behind the scene is scared. He can get on Twitter all day long, tweet out his snarky little comments, talk about how great Donald Trump is, which he also did last week, said Donald Trump's the undisputed leader of the Republican Party. But behind that, the dude needs to be on the verge of tears because of what he knows is coming down the pipeline. We have the receipts. We have the transactions. We have the confession letter from Greenberg. I mean, hell, what more do prosecutors need? Apparently a lot, based on the fact that they were still willing to give a plea deal to Greenberg. Somebody on Twitter last week pointed out to me that whenever there's a new Matt Gaetz story, I tend to light up like a kid on Christmas morning. And that's true, I do. I typically don't revel in the misery of others, but in this case I make an exception because Matt Gaetz is not just a stain on this particular district where I live, but he's a stain on this country. And he's a stain that needs to be removed from Congress, needs to be removed from this district, needs to maybe stop making Florida's 1st district the laughingstock of the entire country. So yeah, it is actually a little bit personal too, because this is my home. And this man is making us all look like a bunch of little Matt Gaetzes. So yes, I want him out of Congress and I would love to see him go to prison. If for no other reason than to stop drawing all this negative attention to our hometown here.